This video presentation was made to conclude my YouTube on the Volvo S40 rear brake pads and rotors replacement.
Hi viewers, in this video I will show you how I replaced the stock parking brake cable on the right side of my Volvo S40.
Since the car had a lot of mileage, I decided to look online for a used cable. The fastest and the cheapest way to get the new part was to get to the nearest Kenny-U-Pull auto wrecker. Once there, I dismantled the cables that I needed. It took me around 2 hours to get there and to be back in my garage. As you can see, I found a good pair of cables. For this job, I only needed the right-hand side one. I kept the other cable as a spare one. To be able to have enough room to work under the car, the entire vehicle had to be lifted up. For safety, I used 6 jack stands, 2 floor jacks, 2 ramps, and 4-wheel chocks. Since the parking brake cable was not easy to see under the car, I made some illustrations to show where I was working. I began with the easy job. Using a Torx bit socket, I unscrewed the retaining screw on the side of the trailing arm. I had to wiggle and pull the cable attachment, but it was easy to unfasten the cable. To continue the job, I only followed the parking cable. Once under the car, there was a plastic panel that was used to hide and protect the cable. I unscrewed the 3 fasteners to be able to remove the panel and get access to the cable. I followed the cable and I saw 2 plastic cable fasteners mounted on the side of a vertical surface. The cable was firmly clamped and I had some difficulties to get it free. The cable continued under the aluminum shield, but I had an idea on how I was able to complete the job without having to remove the exhaust pipe. Since the aluminum shields were thin and easy to fold, I only needed to unscrew the fasteners and remove the resonator bracket. Finally, after some folding, pushing, pulling and wiggling, a shield was removed. I only needed to remove one to have enough space to work. To slacken the parking brake cable, I had to access the handbrake adjustment system. A simple flathead screwdriver was required to unclip the plastic shroud. The knot was loosened to give a maximum slack with the front parking brake cable linked with the cable equalizer. As you can see, there was enough slack to disengage the front cable. The space to work was limited and I had to use needle nose pliers combined with a flathead screwdriver to compress the 3 tabs on the cable collar. I could not film the full procedure because I needed my 2 hands to work. To disconnect the right-hand cable from the cable equalizer, I used the pry bar and locking pliers to enlarge the cable slot. When I pulled out the cable, I paid attention on the original cable routing. At last, I had only the caliper section to disconnect, but not before getting any movement from the end cable. Even if I forgot to put a plate to protect the brake fluid line, I had no problem cutting the defective cable. Because the cable was not moving, I had to cut the cable collar so the small section could move into the bracket hole. When the plastic collar was reduced enough to fit in, it was easy to go through the bracket and get the cable loosened. Finally, the cable was completely removed. I double-checked the replacement cable and it was good to be reinstalled. After, I returned under the car and I began attaching the front cable. I routed the cable properly and while the cables were still loose, I linked the new cable with the cable equalizer. To secure the cable attachment, I closed the slot with big channel lock pliers. To complete this section, I used my long pliers to insert and lock the 2 cable collars in the bracket holes. With the proper routing done, I attached the other side of the cable on the caliper and the spring was reinstalled to give a normal tension. The cable was fastened on the side of the trailing arm, and the remaining cable section was secured with the 2 plastic fasteners located on the middle vertical surface. The plastic panel was put back in place. At the base of the wheel well cover, the locking tabs were joined together. Before installing the aluminum shield under the car, I screwed the nut in place to readjust the position of the handbrake. With the help of a friend, I checked the brake pedal and the handbrake. To reduce the risk of rusting too fast and seizing, I applied a coat of brake lubricant on the end of the cable. The aluminum shield was put back in place and the resonator bracket was reinstalled. Because some studs used to hold the aluminum shields were damaged, I needed to add new fasteners to fix the problem. When the handbrake was well adjusted, I was able to install the handbrake shroud. Later during the day, I had a chance to go for a road test and the brakes were performing well. I added this little video clip to show that the rust buildup was the problem.
As you can see, there was only a small section of the cable that was rusted, but to be safe it was good to replace the whole cable.